I want to start, though, with some market developments and IronNet, General Alexander, going public via SPAC. Why choose that route? Why for a cybersecurity company, and why now?
Well, that's a great question. The reason, it's early for us to go public, but we have a unique capability to detect events in cyberspace that others can't see with behavioral analytics. And more importantly, we can share that at network speed across companies to create true collective defense at speed. We think that's needed, and it's worth the time now to go public early and get that out there. We think we can own that space, and we think that's the future of cybersecurity. It worked with other companies. We're not replacing all cybersecurity, but we are creating a way to help companies, sectors, states, and nations defend in ways we've never been able to in the past. That's what we're bringing to the table, and that's why we're doing a SPAC now.
Well, and nations are certainly getting increasingly aggressive, whether it is Russia or China. We've been following the Microsoft Exchange hack, allegedly originating within China. What do they appear to be after, in your view, and what is the end game in this particular case?
So that's different than, of course, the SolarWinds. China is looking for intellectual property. How do they get into companies? How do they get intellectual property or information on people to help them get intellectual property or to compete in business? They're looking at that to give them an economic edge in this space. And they've been doing that for years. The last time we talked about that being the greatest transfer of wealth in history, their theft of our intellectual property. We've got to do a better job of defending. And the real problem is every company tries to defend today. If you think about that, think about 90 banks out there with 10 people. They're all trying to defend their part. Now imagine if we allowed those to network together, 900 people defending together, how much better we'd be secured if we could work together in cyberspace. We could defend the private sector, and the private sector could let the government know the attacks that are ongoing. I think that's what changes. That's what we have to do to push back on China. They're going to keep stealing as long as they get away with it. And you can see on the Microsoft thing, they went a lot. They pushed a lot in over a short period of time to steal a lot of information. They were brazen about it. They didn't care that we saw. That should set great concern to all of us. This is a huge problem. We've got to solve it.
Then, of course, there's the SolarWinds hack, which originated allegedly in Russia. We're continuing to get reaction to that from the White House and beyond. Take a listen to some of the things that are being said.
This isn't the only case of malicious cyber activity of likely Russian origin, either for us or for our allies and partners.
The United States government is constantly under threat from cyber attacks, not only U.S. government systems, but U.S. commercial, private sector systems as well. This is an ongoing challenge.
We need international rules of the road on cybersecurity. We have to bring along our allies and our friends so we hold everyone accountable.
This is a very serious situation. It's a very widespread hacking.
It is very serious. We don't know the depth of it yet. We have to spend a lot of time and analyze it. But we are vulnerable in ways we never imagined.
In your view, General Alexander, who's to blame for the SolarWinds hack? Why didn't the NSA or U.S. Cyber Command stop it?
Really straightforward. They don't have the authority to see attacks nor the ability to see attacks on our country. We haven't done that. That was one of the things that Congress asked me, what do we need to fix? We told them that. And I can remember several senators saying, well, if we don't fix that, then shame on us. So step one, we have to build the ability for the private sector and the public sector to work together. NSA, we don't want NSA nor Cyber Command in their networks. We want them to be able to call and say, I'm having a problem. And right now they can't see the problem with the tools they have. So we're in this dilemma. Everybody can point fingers. And the reality is you need the ability to see threats. You need the ability to share that in an anonymized way across companies and between the public and private sector. We've got to solve that problem. It's not about blame. We're being attacked. And what we're doing is we're saying missiles are hitting us. Who should we blame? And the answer is all of us right now, we can blame because we know we need a better defense. Let's get out and create that better defense. The way we've been doing it doesn't work. We need to take this next step and come up with a true behavioral set of capabilities that can share anomalies at network speed and help us defend our nation and work with our allies.
So when you look at the increasingly aggressive attacks of nation states, of Russia, of China, would you say that we're on the verge of an all-out cyber war, or are we already in one?
I think I'd take a step back. I think from Russia, my view, Russia was trying to figure out what we were doing on indicting the GRU folks that did the attack on Ukraine in 2017, and they were collecting a lot of information. But your point, I would now say, look at what they learned. They got into 18,000 companies. That's a huge problem. This is something that our country needs to step back and say, if that had been destructive against those 18,000 companies, we're in a totally different place. We need to step up. We need to figure out how we're going to solve this problem. And it can't be, please don't attack us, because when something bad happens, they will. So we now need to say, okay, how are we going to work with us, within our country, and with our allies to defend in this space? All our wealth, our future is in this network. We got to solve this.
Now, General, you were recently appointed to the board of Amazon. Big leadership changes happening there. Of course, Jeff Bezos stepping down later this year. Andy Jassy, who's been running AWS, becoming CEO. Amazon tapping Adam Selipsky to run the cloud division, which is a hugely important division and certainly on the front lines of these threats in cyberspace. How, as giant as Amazon is, how vulnerable do you think they are to a large-scale attack? And, certainly I imagine you're going to bring that kind of expertise to the board.
Well, I'll tell you what an honor and privilege it is to be on the board. They have great people. They do a great job. I love the way the board works, the way they ask questions. Everybody's really well prepared for this. It's an honor to be on there. And they go through these processes and they want to do it right. I'm just really impressed with that. Beyond that, I can't talk about it. They are secure. I like the way they do their security. So I think they're great in this area.
But if you look at what's happened to Microsoft as well, I guess, would you say, is anybody safe? Is any company safe? Can any company do enough?
Well, I think this is where you now get into a collective defense. What are the roles and responsibilities between all the companies that are out there, between the intermediate layer, think of this as your IT, and now the cloud providers, each with different attributes and capabilities. So an Amazon cloud is fundamentally different than a Microsoft cloud. And I think in those differences brings pluses and minuses. And in the case of Microsoft, it has issues with Office 365 and Active Directory, that line of attacks. But I think your greater point here is think about how do we work together as a nation and as nations in this space? And the answer is this is an area where we perhaps don't compete. We actually need to work together for the common defense. How do we do that? Because that's the right thing to do. You think about your family, you think about your business, you think about your city, your state. All of these now are wired to this internet. How do we defend them? And it can't be every company's competing in defense. In this area, we've got to work together. We've got to figure out how to bring those together, the best together, and solve this problem. I think that's part of the future.